Hello and welcome to part 12 of the Micky head tutorial set. This is David Ward. When last I left you, we had gone through and set up the specular map and the subsurface scattering, and kind of just got his head pretty well all set. I'm noticing there's some seams in here. If you zoom out quite a ways, you can see them, but if you zoom in, they kind of disappear. But anyways, if you wanted to fix those, you could go into the texture paint and use that smear or the soften tool, or which one was it? The smear or soften, either one, and just kind of run that along the edges there, and those should blur together. I'm not going to mess with that. Let's keep going. Like I said, when last I left you, we got the head set up. So now the main thing looking us right in the face, literally, are his eyeballs. So let's go ahead and work on those. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the head now. Just hit H to hide it. And we'll grab one of these eyeballs here. Kind of hit the period button so we're zoomed in on them. I think that's actually one eyeball that's got the mirror on it. Yeah, let's go ahead and kill that mirror, just so we're having the one eyeball by itself. And let's get this guy set up to start having a nice texture map on him. So we'll tab into edit mode, and let's bring that separator there. Let's go ahead and turn off our proportional editing if you have it turned on. Let's go ahead and bring that up until it's right there, and then we'll grab this edge, and actually let's just hit GG so we're moving along its edge rather than just moving it. And scale this down a little bit. Maybe add, I was going to try to add a loop right in there, but it doesn't want to work, because let's scale this one down. Just hit GG twice on that one. Put our side view, make sure that's not coming too sharp of a point. Round that out. Then we can add a loop in here and maybe scale that up a little bit. And this will be his cornea of his eye there. So you can still kind of see the shape there. Needs to be fairly smooth, so it doesn't have a harsh transition once we add a specular setting to it. Okay, so this is going to be the actual outside of the eyeball. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here to our material settings, and let's create two different slots here for this object. And the first slot, we're going to say new, and we're going to call this one, let's just call this one eyeball, or actually just go ahead and name it Micky eyeball, just in case you want to mix it with a different character later on. You can keep the eye name separate. So we'll call this one Micky eyeball texture. Okay, and then I'm going to hover over and Control C, and that's going to copy that text. Go to this next one, say another new one, Control V, except this time instead of texture, let's get this out a little bit. We're going to say lens. Okay, and this one's going to be only the lens, just the glossy reflective surface of your eyeball lens, the wet part. So this one I'm going to go transparency, set that all the way down to 0, and the specular, I'm going to set that to Ward ISO. That gives us a nice sharper, harsher glossiness there. Set the intensity down just a little bit though, say maybe 0.15, and then the slope, the smaller it is, the tighter that sheen is going to be, so the wetter it's going to look. So let's set that to about 0.025. If we turn on our monkey head, you can see kind of looks wet in there. Maybe set that to 0.1, a little bit more. Maybe 0.05. There we go. That'll work. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be our lens. So we're going to select the whole thing, go ahead and assign that material to there, and kind of get an idea in our view what that's going to look like here if we're in actually texture mode. Okay, it's going to be real glossy, showing those 3-point lights. You can see where the cornea starts there. Good. All right, so this is going to be kind of like the scalp on the head. We're not going to actually have this in our texture map, because it's going to have a separate material. So as soon as we duplicate it, Shift D to duplicate the part that's actually going to have a texture on it. We're going to scale that down ever so slightly so it's just inside that lens. So I'm just holding down Shift, and it's letting me have, if I just did it willy-nilly like so, it'd be really fast and you couldn't get a nice precise, smaller size. But if you hold down Shift while you're doing that, it'll do it a little slower and you have a little more control. So we'll make that a little smaller just so it's inside that lens. And then we're going to go ahead and come up to this second one, go ahead and assign that. So now we have two different materials on that one object. Now one thing we need to do on that lens before we go any further is come all the way down here to the shadow settings, and we don't want it to cast any shadows or buffer shadows. So good to go. And also, if we turn off traceable, it definitely won't throw shadows. So just turn that off. Okay, good to go. Now let's go ahead and select the invert or hide the invert. We're going to Shift H, and it's going to hide what's not selected. And what was selected was the part that's going to have the actual texture. So that's what we want. And let's go to our side view. Let's grab this loop here. And tell you what, let's go ahead and grab this whole loop here. Just get rid of those. We won't need them. We won't see that part of his eyeball ever, so go ahead and delete them. So now all we have to do, let's go ahead and put a seam right here for his iris. So we're going to Control E, mark the seam. There we go. And just so it's nice and so it unwraps nicely, I'm going to add another seam. Go to our edge select. And let's select these edges here. See what I'm doing here. Let's go back to just solid view. There we go. Select these edges and Control E and mark that seam. So this is going to be the eye whites, the white area of the eyeball. This will be the iris, and then this area here is going to be his pupil. Let's go ahead and add a physical pupil here. So we'll just grab that center circle there and just extrude that in just a little bit the first time. So we get a nice sharp edge there, and then extrude again. Maybe size it up and extrude in. Every time I say extrude it in, or extrude in, anyways, that word, it makes me think of Call of Duty 2 when you were playing as a Germany and Entschuldigen Sie. I don't remember what that means, but extrude again. Extrude again. So anyways, so you get that. You can't see it now because of that lens texture there. But if we go to our object data tab, and we come down here and we say transparency, we can actually have that turned off or invisible because it's transparent there in our 3D view. So now you can see the actual eyeball itself with the pupil there. Let's go ahead and add a seam around the inside of the pupil. Control E, mark the seam. And now if we go select that and U, unwrap. Let's go ahead and turn off some of these panels over here. T to turn off the toolbar, and N to turn off the properties. And so now you can see this is what our eyeball texture map is going to look like. So if we come out of texture paint here, we're still in there from part 11 where we're messing with the normal map and things. I'm going to grab this iris part, and we're going to scale that way up so we want some extra detail on that. So scale that up, move it over here, and then this is going to be probably the well, I guess that'll be the pupil area. Not sure why it's so weird looking, but we could just scale that down and just put a black spot over it, and that'll work. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and start texturing our eyeball. So it's seamed out, it's ready, it's UV mapped out, so we'll just go ahead and save this one. We're going to do the same thing we did on the skin and kind of clone paint. So what I want to do is go back to image after, and let's go back to our the home page. Actually, I think I have it in this tab here. Yes. And instead of well, where I was art painting, we're going to go back to that human characters, human parts. Now, I was looking at this earlier, and let's go ahead and skip to page 11, and that'll give us a lot of options here for some iris and eyeball textures. So it'd be handy to get one that's almost all. This one looks pretty good, got some weird spots in it. That's the same as that one and that one. So let's use one where the light is kind of mostly from the front. I guess we can go ahead and let's just use this one. So we'll open that in a new tab. Actually, it's kind of blurry, so let's undo that. Let's look at this one. And we can use this one. We'll just clean it up, clean those spots up off of there. So I'm going to right click, copy that image, jump into Photoshop, File, New, go ahead and say OK. And we're going to do just like we did in part 8 or 9, I don't remember, but we're going to clean this and get this ready to texture paint. So another thing I want to do is, like I said, get it ready for texture painting. There was another image here that I want to use, I believe was on page 8. And maybe it was page 9? somewhere around in here. Must have been page 7. So let's go page 7. Yeah, there we go. Kind of a weird looking, scary looking, where he's looking down, but this will give us a nice thing to, oh, that makes me queasy a little bit looking at that, but we'll copy that and minimize and bring this in here as well. Let's go ahead and hide that for now. What I want to do is basically make the eyeball out alone by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just select, let's use our clone brush, go to the layer that we're wanting to work on, and just hold down Alt. I'm going to click over here, select that area of the eye there, and I'm just going to paint over, well, I guess that doesn't work too well. Let's do it right there. Paint over that spot there. We don't want that spot. And then also, I'll want to paint over that glossiness, but we'll do that a little bit easier. I'll just select the lasso tool. I'm just going to click and drag over half of that. Select that, Control C, Control V, and then it's copied and pasted, Control T, and I'm going to rotate it around and bring it up to the top so we have a nice eyeball that doesn't have any reflections on it. Then we can kind of clean it up a little bit, cut off some of that harsh edge. Okay, so now we have the actual iris, so that's good to go, but we need the rest of the eye white as well. So back to that layer, and going to kind of do the same thing, just select this whole spot here, and Control C, Control V, and we'll just rotate that. I'm going to set my center rotation point there in the pupil area, so I can rotate like so. And let's just rotate that about like that, and then erase parts of it. And just kind of do this all the way around. Since we got that erased out, we can just copy that layer, just rotate it like so, and then let's grab this guy and kind of erase out this area. The problem is we're going to have a lot of those blood veins there, but let's see which layer. There we go. Just keep doing this until we have a nice circle of eyeball, if that makes sense. And once you get it to a certain point, you don't have to copy it one at a time anymore. So we can get it to there and clean this up. Then let's select all these layer 4 and copies. And I'm going to go ahead and merge those together, merge layers, and then just copy that whole section and rotate it. So it'll save us a little bit of time, instead of just doing one at a time. About like so, and then just do it again. Extrude again, down to there, like so, and then probably one more time should be good. Yeah. So that's getting us there. Let's kind of clean up some of this area here. Let's go ahead and merge all of those together, and then we can kind of just clean it up as we need to. There we go. Okay, so now let's look at that queasy, gross looking thing. Yeah. And let's select some of it so we can go out even further. Make sure we're on that layer. Control C, Control V. Go ahead and hide that one. And then drag this up here. And then let's color match it to where it's about the same shade and tone. So it needs some more pinkish. So let's add. Actually, let's not use hue saturation. Let's use the color balance. There we go. Add a little more red to it. There we go. Maybe a little less blue. Okay, so let's change some of the brightness contrast. Go a little brighter maybe. And then let's take care of that sheen right there. I'm going to grab my clone stamp. Click over there. Just drag it. It's a little too dark there. Let's go more closer to it. Okay. So let's do the same thing on this one that we did with the other eye whites and just kind of duplicate it. Hold down Alt and click and drag, and that'll create copies. One too many. Let's rotate that, get this set up before we start copying it. Okay, good. Then we will hit the eraser tool and erase some of that edge so it blends in a little more nicely. Maybe get rid of some of this edge. And then these edges here. Good. And then this one, go ahead and clean up that edge there. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and select both of these, go ahead and merge those, and then do the same thing, Alt drag, or you can click and drag down to the new layer. Either way will work. Get this going. Clean some of that area up. A little too much right there. There we go. And then click and drag there. And then click and drag. Oops. One final time. And I think that'll work. Okay, so let's get that first one. I see a little bit of harshness there. A little bit. There we go. And then this guy, a little bit in there. And then on around. Clean some of that up. Okay, so now we have our basic eyeball shape and eye white, but we got some pink eye coming around here. So let's do this. Let's grab our actual eyeball area, drag that down below that. Let's merge this down. So now that's on the actual eyeball itself. Looks kind of weird. Has no reflection. And turn that one off. And I'm just going to grab get the elliptical marquee tool. Start right there in the iris area. Just hold down Alt and Shift and drag out, and that'll make a perfect circle. And let's rearrange that a little bit. We're just going to copy this, Control C, Control V, and then we can grab the pinkish area, and we can change the brightness and contrast of that to where it's white rather than pink. Change the contrast way down, brightness up, say OK, go to Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, go ahead and drop that saturation way down. About like so. Okay, so now we'll grab that iris we copied up above there, and positioned correctly, let's go ahead and add a layer style to it. Double click on that as soon as that pops up. What I'm going to do to make this kind of blend in with its surroundings a little better is go ahead and add a drop shadow to it and change it from multiply to normal. Go ahead and set the opacity all the way up and set the distance to 0, but then set the spread out. So I'm wanting to just basically blend out from where it's at. About like so. Maybe a little smaller. And then kind of do the same thing on the inside. Inner shadow. Set the distance to 0. And the opacity all the way to 100% normal instead of multiply. And set the size up a little bit. You can see that this helps add it to the surrounding. Now, it's kind of a brownish, almost hazel colored eye. Say we want to make it green or even blue. We can do a color overlay. Go ahead and turn that on. And instead of blend mode normal, if we go down to, make this a little bigger so you can see it, go down to color, you can see now it's red. Or if I wanted to make it kind of ice blue, real bright blue, could do like so. Okay, and then maybe change the opacity to get a little more realistic with multiple colors in it. If you go to hue, maybe that'll help out a little bit. Let's make it a real pale greenish blue, maybe about like that. It'd be nice if you could set more than one blend mode on here, but maybe set that back to color. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, so this is basically what we need to create a nice eyeball. So I'm going to Control-Shift-S to save as, and we're going to name this, it's going to be a JPEG. We're going to say eyeball source, or I guess, yeah, source will work, eyeball source. Let's go ahead and put that in our reference folder too. Eyeball source, go ahead and save that. Okay, and we might want to change the color of the eye later on, so I'm going to go ahead and say save as, and just save it as a PSD this time. Go ahead and name it the same thing, eyeball source. PSD. Save that. Okay, so now jump back into Blender, and that's the render of the previous session there. And let's go ahead and create a new texture map for our eyeball to paint on. New image, and we'll leave this one 1024. Okay, and then also we'll tab out, and let's do like we did on the head. Create another UV map. There, we'll say front. Okay, and then we'll tab into edit mode again. Say UV project from view, and now we'll have our eyeball that we can paint from. So let's scale that up there, and let's go ahead and open up our reference eyeball source JPEG there. As soon as that opens, there we go. Tab in here and make sure that that's eyeball source. There we go. And let's go ahead and project from view again from the front so it's nice and round. Let's go ahead and get that set up the way we need to. About like so. So now if we were to go to texture view, or is it going to be material? Rendered. Okay, so we don't have that set on there yet because we haven't given it a slot because we haven't gone into texture paint yet. So we go slots, and we're going to be painting onto Untitled. Just go ahead and name this one eyeball texture. Actually go back to the front, Micky eyeball texture. There we go. And painting onto the UV map. And then we're going to, actually, yes, and then go to Tools, change that to Clone. And we're going to clone from the eyeball source and the front map onto the Micky eyeball UV map. Okay, so hopefully everything is set up the way it needs to go. Back to material. And good to go. I think that's all set. Let's set our brushes and things a little bigger. Click and drag paint, and you can see it's painting nicely. You can't see it in the window here because we have that. Let's go ahead. Just to get that out of the way. Not sure why it's not showing our material as we're painting it. Must be because that lens is on there. So tell you what, let's do. Let's create a shape key here with the basis and then the first key, and you can unhide that lens, then select one vertex of it, Control L so we select all of it, and then just move it down, say on the Z-axis, down to about there on key 1, so we can turn that key 1 on and kind of see what we're doing on the underlying side of the eyeball. So it's looking good, actually. So we're still in texture paint, so I'm just going to go ahead and brush on there and just get the rest of that eyeball painted in. Okay, so that's good to go. I want to go ahead and paint the inside of the pupil just solid black, so I'm going to go to texture draw, and let's come over in this window here and open up that Micky eyeball texture. There we go. And that's going to be this guy here. So we're going to turn on the paint settings and set the radius down here. And just, oops, that needs to be the black one, not the other. And just paint solid black inside his pupil. And there we go. Nice and pretty. It's got some pretty eyes. So let's go ahead and save that image as, save as image, Micky eyeball texture, JPEG. Quality 100, save as image, and there we go. Okay, so now we can go ahead and kill that shape key since we got that on there. Go ahead and delete that out. And then go ahead and delete that front UV map too if you like. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on there. Go to our material settings, eyeball texture, and then set the, I guess we'll create a new texture slot there, Micky _ eyeball texture, okay, and choose the eyeball texture there, and make sure it's going to the correct UV map, which is just UV map, There we go. And obviously you still can't see it because we're in texture paint, but go to object view, that lens will turn transparent again. We can go to the texture view, and now we can see it in action. So you can see how that's going to look on there. Okay, so he's about ready to rock and roll. Let's go ahead and Alt-H to unhide the rest of him, and then we'll go ahead and duplicate that eye instead of using the mirror. Go ahead and duplicate it. Actually, let's name it first. We'll call this one Micky eyeball.l. Okay. Then Shift D, duplicate that over, and try to get it lined up the same as the other one. Maybe if we go to solid view, we can see a little bit better there in the eye socket. And then we'll name this one eyeball.r. Okay, so now if we look through our texture settings, you can see he now has some eyes. So he's doing a little better. He can actually see something now instead of just having that glaucoma white eye. All right, now before we go much further, there's one thing I want to do here for his eyeballs, and that's instead of just being shiny, they need to have a little bit of a reflection to them. So let's go to our lens. That's going to be the shiny part. And actually, let's turn the eyeball texture down to have 0 specular. We don't want it to have any sheen at all. So set the intensity to 0. Sometimes if I don't release my mouse at the right time, it stays grabbed on and moves way over. But anyways, turn the specular level completely off for the eyeball texture. We want all the shininess to come from the eyeball lens itself. So we set that up, transparency, and turn on mirror just a tiny bit. Reflection, say 0.1 is probably too much. And I think because we turn the, where is it at? Under shading, no. There, we turn traceable off. Huh, that's not showing any reflection there. I wonder why. Let me play with that for just a second, and we'll come right back. So let me figure that out real quick. Okay, I think I figured it out. Now it looks kind of creepy because because it's all solid black. But oh no, I didn't save that image. Okay, let me repaint. I saved it at the point where I was looking, and so I could bring it right back without any changes. But apparently I didn't save the eyeball texture. So that's one lesson. Make sure you save your textures after you paint them. So I'll be right back. Let me paint that real quick. Be right back. Okay. I thought I saved it, and I did. I don't know why it didn't bring it back into the scene when I reopened it. But in any case, there it is. We got some weird thing going on here with the glossiness. I guess that's just part of the transparency part. But anyways, to get that lens to have a reflection, you need to change the transparency. Instead of Z transparency, change that to ray trace. And now you can see we have a mirror. So I'm going to set that to 0.1. You can see it's a very slight reflection there. And also the specular, I'm going to change that into the slope a little smaller, 0.03. So it's a nice, more sharp reflection. Now, one thing we need to do modeling-wise to make these eyes look a little more realistic is to have them kind of concave instead of convex. They're kind of rounded out now. We need to have them round in to have a nice lifelike eyeball look to them. So what we can do, let's come out of texture paint mode, grab our eyeball, tab into edit mode, and right now I have the lens part selected, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that, and let's select the iris part and actually just kind of make that concave. Just grab that middle part and just drag that out, and we'll just drag all this in until it's like that. Then you'll notice once we render it again, it'll have a little bit more lifelike shading on it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Not sure why that didn't bring that in when I saved it and reopened it. But in any case, go ahead and render that one more time. And you can see now he has eyes that are nice and glossy and a very slight shadow. You can't really tell here, but there's a little bit of a reflection of his nose, the bridge of his nose right there and right there. But since it's just a blank background, we don't see a lot of actual reflection in there. Now, when we get into part 13, sorry, this one's running 30 minutes now. We'll jump in and I'll show you how to create an HDR 360 photosphere for such reflections. So that's going to be it for part 12. And again, apologize for this one taking a little bit longer than the others. I like to shoot for 20 minutes, but sometimes they go up to 30. In any case, that's going to be it for part 12. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 13.